Do horses always whinny in the same pitch?
Maybe not. Welcome to Viggy Talks, a conversation show about the creative things that inspire us each and every day. My guest today comes from the UK, but currently lives in Copenhagen. He is the creator of Fingerstyle Fursdays over on Instagram and on YouTube. And on his YouTube channel, you can find his newest single, Sunset, which is one of 3 singles from his debut album, Vejr. You know him as 4STRINGBOY. I know him as SAMMY TURTON. Everyone, please welcome Mr. 4STRINGBOY. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. So
Hello.
nice to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I am so happy.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you too. A fellow flight friend and just a fellow musician friend. We met
Mario Kart friend.
Yes, and Mario Kart. I can't forget that, right?
No, of course not.
No, definitely not. We met over the power of social media, and that's what I think is cool also about this podcast is I'm able to talk to so many cool and multi-talented, multi-instrumentalists that I found online. I meant to say that in the intro, but then I choked and forgot. So there's my double multi.
I would have forgotten by the first word. So you're doing much better than I would have done, mate. It's all good.
Thanks. All right. So I want to start this off by asking you kind of the age-old question that all the musicians in the whole world are probably asked is, what was the spark that started your musical journey? Not just with the ukulele, but with all the other instruments that you play, with bass, piano, and you play a little bit of guitar, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
A little bit of guitar.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
So where did this all come from? What made 4STRINGBOY the boy he is today?
So I actually started on guitar. So technically, I do play guitar, but it is the instrument I just don't touch outside of teaching. So it exists, but Six String Boy is a myth. Basically, it doesn't exist. So that's it. I blame everything on the TV channel MTV2.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, so it's MTV2's fault. Basically, it was. I don't come from a musical family, but at school, we did have to rock the ocarina, which is usually it's in most schools in the UK. It's the recorder you have to play, but our school was like, no, obviously big Zelda fans or something. I don't know what the fuck was going on, but they're like, you must play the ocarina. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to be really fucking good at the ocarina. So, but no, then years later, like when I hit teens, MTV2, and it was all like introduced lots of music that I'd never heard. For example, typical Foo Fighters, Nirvana, The Strokes was around. White Stripes was massive when that was all coming out. And I was like, all those lovely children are making such nice things. What do I have to do? And obviously it was guitar. So it was just the very, very luckily, thankfully, it's that Christmas period coming up and my birthday's around that period as well. So it's always that basically I can go for the double bonus. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I can really fucking rock it. I'll be like, yeah, I want this and this. And they're like, well, yeah, it's Christmas and birthday. It's fine, whatever. So I basically got a guitar and got a little amp and, your typical shitty starter kit. And that's pretty much how it started off from there. I had guitar lessons for like 6 months. And then friends of mine at school, one was a guitarist, one was a drummer. And basically they needed a bass player to start a band. So, this was basically coming on to the next Christmas period. I was like, yeah. So I asked for a bass and a little amp. And basically, luckily, my guitar teacher was also a bass teacher as well. So he was a fucking excellent guy. So he taught me bass as well. And then from there, I sort of went into musical education, like at college. So I did what's called a BTEC in music. So I studied like pop music, music performance, and studied on bass. But there they taught you. I say lots about my college. I love my college. I went to Hales Owen College in the UK, and the teachers there were fantastic. They're sort of what ignited me for teaching. They were all the best, but they were really, really drilled you on like your ears and also keyboards. So they'd like to teach you lots of it. So it was lots of listening to music, analyzing music, lots of listening to chords, analyzing tones and stuff like that. And I think because of all that sort of spurred me to keep going on in later life. So I carried on the piano from there. And then at some point I bought a drum kit as well, just to be stupid. But Yeah, that's it. Ukulele is like the last one that came along, and it was only because we just, I mean, my wife had moved to a new town, and first thing I had to do was go check out the local guitar shop. We have sound guitars in Worthing. Alex, this is the sexiest man alive. Another Alex. There's too many Alexes. Why are all named Alex sexy? I don't know. We got to look into that, scientists.
Yeah.
So we'll look into that. But he had like a good ukulele display, and I'd never met a ukulele in real life. So I was like, got 4 strings. You kind of strum it like a guitar. So I was like, how bad can this be? I sat down and I played around. There's a nice little Carla concert. Played around, loved it, brought it home, and there's a terrible decision because lots of lovely things happened from then. So I've never been able to play it down.
Yay! Oh, that's such a nice story. I love how, especially with how you found your way to the ukulele, how grounded it is, because I think a lot of people, sometimes when you ask them like, oh, how did you get into music, they kind of expect you to like have found the instrument in a stone and like be the only one worthy of pulling it out, you know, like there is something great about it being a little bit more mundane, and you kind of just stumble upon it, or sometimes the instrument finds you in a way.
No, exactly. And I mean, I always get intimidated when you read about like, you know, whether it's like the Hawaiian players, and they're like, oh, I've been playing ukulele since the age of 5, and you're like, holy shit, okay, yeah. Right, super. And they were obviously brought up on the instrument and everything, and so for me it is literally like the latest instrument that I encountered, but I don't know what it was about it, but I just fell in love with it. It was great, and then it's really stuck with me ever since. So I mean, I'm very lucky to be in that perspective, because it's got the nicest community out of all the instruments, hasn't it? So
oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like the uke community has the least animosity, and it's the most uplifting, I think, of all of them.
Definitely.
Of course, I'm biased, but like I think it's the best.
No, mate, I know. We've both been on social media to enough when a dick comes into the conversation and you're like, oh, they play fucking guitar or something, don't they? Right. You know, it's always the case. So
it's always the guitar people.
Yeah, like, always.
It's the guitar people are like a child. It's no in between. You mentioned Legend of Zelda, and I know that you are a big video game guy. Between Mario Kart, Legend of Zelda, we've both talked about Skyrim a little bit, and I listened to your new singles, and they are absolutely beautiful. They're very atmospheric in their construction, and it's very like ambient.
You're very kind.
So it reminded me of kind of like the Skyrim kind of music, this kind of like open world, almost like ethereal kind of sound. So I wanted to ask, how do your other interests like video games and these kind of like video game soundtracks and stuff, do they shape the way that you kind of interpret music and arrange them to be your own kind of thing?
Oh, very good question, mate. Very good question. I mean, for many years, I wanted to be a video game composer.
Oh,
so
cool.
And spent a long time building up portfolios of like and scoring to music. So I do. There is another YouTube channel of me that exists somewhere as a video game composer.
No way.
That exists in the world.
You gonna link it or no?
No.
Okay.
No. It remains a secret forever. Gotcha. But and so it was always composing has always been like one of the best things, even when I was a teenager, and because I'm old, like, you know, I didn't have a computer, so there was like no such thing as GarageBand and stuff like that. So I had one of these like Zoom multi-track recorders things, and I was always interested basically to lose too much time as to writing my own thing, would write my own tabs and then multi-track record and constantly. So it's almost been like a thing that stayed with me for my entire life, has been writing my own music and recording it, and never as a thing as like I'm recording this song like a band or a pop artist or anything like that. It's always just been instrumental shit, basically, just sounds going on, you know what I mean? So So it's always sort of what I think the sound I'm drawn to naturally. And because I do play a lot of video games, and I like always am like analyzing sounds and the music that I generally, the games that I usually play, like JRPGs or RPGs, are usually full of like amazing, incredible soundtracks. Yeah. And so that atmospheric thing, and just some of the artists that I listen to, like Sigur Rós going, for example, is that kind of way. So I think it was always that, I mean, when I originally wrote the album, because I took it on the UK tour. Like I took 5 tracks on with the UK tour, and it was just ukulele. So all of them were written purely on the ukulele. And in all honesty, I had never had any idea that I was going to add any more instruments to it. And it was only when I recorded, I don't know, I have no fucking idea where it came from, but I just had the idea. I recorded a Fingerstyle Thursday, I don't know numbers. I've got no idea, 12 or 13, basically. Oh, no, it is 12 because it's on the album. Yes, thank you. That's how I know it. Yes. And so basically, I thought I'd sit down and play with some instrumentation to it. And I was like, cool. And then I was trying to think of like, if I'd heard ukulele and this sort of concept go together before. And I was like, I'm sure somebody's done it. Everybody's done everything, right? So, but I was like, it's not a common thing. Usually it's all piano and strings and synths and stuff like that. Maybe a bit of guitar, but not really. So I thought actually if it's ground up from the ukulele and ukulele led, I thought the fact that this accompanying it, I don't know, I just liked the idea. And for me, like I said, I just like the harmony and the layers of extra things that I can add. So yeah, I think naturally, even if I try and write like a fucking pop song or rock song or anything, it will always come out like this. I think it's just, I'm stuck like that for better or worse. So
No, for sure. I love that. You end up more pop, but in a hosier way, not really like a,
that's exactly it. Yeah, we love this pop song that you've done, Sammy, but the bassoon solo in the 8-minute, is it really necessary, or can we cut that?
No, it is absolutely. As a former bassoon player, it's necessary.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I know which one you're talking about. Also, ignore the fact that I just have this near me. But is it? I don't know the numbers either. But
you've already got the chord, so yes.
This one, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's one.
That is my favorite one too.
Well, it is actually on the album, and it's called 12 Degrees Celsius. And it is just the Fingerstyle Thursday, but with backing. That's all it is. It's sort of like a filler track almost, but I didn't want to take the Fingerstyle Thursday name away from it, but I thought it was very weird if you had all these weathers, sunset, sunrise, breeze, Fingerstyle Thursday 12. I thought it just doesn't really fit in there. So yes, I thought, how can I make that fit in there? So, but there's also one other Fingerstyle Thursday 25, and that's 25 degrees Fahrenheit. So I borrowed from you lot. Yeah, see.
I love it. So
it's got to be cold and miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cold. 25 Fahrenheit. That's pretty chilly. It's funny. I if I ever kind of did like instrumental type solo stuff, it would also be in that vein. The same kind of inspiration. So that's really cool to see. I listened to it and I was like, this is just perfect because this is the shit I like already. So this is just awesome. But I'm very excited to hear the rest of your album. I cannot wait.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, mate. I'm having far too much fun putting it together. And as much as I'm very excited to like hear it back to back and have it as a collection and stuff like that, it'll be a little bit sad, obviously, having finished it. But I am doing it all on my own because I'm cheap. So it's basically, it's just I try and dedicate at least like one day a week to complete album time. So. Mm-hmm.
No, that's amazing. Sometimes it's our limitations that allow us to do the greatest things, right?
Oh, so clever. You're not allowed to be this clever at this age, mate. It's not fair.
What a quote. I don't even I said that. I was like, damn. What the hell? All right. So when you go about arranging these very atmospheric songs, you say you start with the uke part and then you kind of branch off from there. So totally. Do you kind of have the whole chord melody structured and then you break it down? So for example, like if you had some kind of repeating bass note in your like original, I guess, rough draft chord melody version, would you then go and take that out and maybe play it on like a baritone uke and then kind of segment it from there? Or is it about creating harmonies on the already established version that you have and like adding extras to it?
Pretty much the latter, yeah. So I mean, for example, in the track Frost, which I will play there, the intro for that, I mean, all of it is all around like a pedaled C. It's all in C minor and it's all around a pedaled C. So there is, on YouTube, there's a full set that I played in Belper with Phil Dolman, and that was he was incredible, and he recorded it all and gave me the video. I was like, here you go. So that was like such an amazing memento to have. But that track is in there, like played live, all acoustic, so you can hear the difference of that. And then basically, I'm just adding the harmony that sounds weird, but I can hear in my head. So it's when I'm playing it, I'm hearing it in my head, even though technically I guess I should be writing the harmony on the ukulele, but I'm not, because I want the ukulele to tick off certain tones, and I don't want it to tick off, like, for example, the low end. I want it to complement this end, and I want something else here that fills in that side of it. So even though I can hear that acoustically, it doesn't make sense. So yes.
Oh wow, that's really interesting. That I always like to ask these kind of questions because, like, exactly, like who thinks like that as a diss, but like who, like who. That's such a crazy like process there, where you can hear what you're not even playing or having written down yet, but it just kind of shapes itself as you're playing it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool and annoying at the same time, because, like I said, it's if I'm sat doing something, I can hear these other things in my brain. I'm like, I better go fucking record that before I absolutely forget it or something. You know what I mean? So it's always that I just have to quickly rush here. I mean, luckily I have like a MIDI controller piano set up 24/7. So it's like for my teaching. So I'm very lucky in that fact that I can just come and sit down, record something, and then fuck off again. So that's lucky. But yes, it's also very bad when I play something acoustically with that, probably should have a bit more depth, but the way I'm playing it doesn't showcase that whatsoever.
Right. Nah, that's cool. Same thing kind of with me. Like, I don't know how to turn it off sometimes, like my brain. Especially not so much my brain, but the ear, right? Because like now I might have said the same anecdote in the first episode, so maybe I'll make it a joke and I'll just keep mentioning this every time.
Okay, yeah.
But I was watching a commercial once with my boyfriend, and it was some royalty-free, like, ukulele kind of background music, and I went, that's F, B flat, C. And he was like, what? And I walked across the room and just got, like, I grabbed my uke that was nearby and I just played it. And he was like, how did you do? And I was like, I just can't turn it off. I just can't. It just constantly. I wish I could have just sat there and watched it, but I had to go up and just check. Like, I can't.
No, I know. It's gift and curse. It's often, yes, it's, I don't know whether my wife just tolerates me or whether, I'm actually a joy to be around. It's 50-50, maybe 60-40. But it's like if we're listening to, especially like an advert or something like that, something that's not popular music or something like that, I'll be listening to that, I'll be like, holy shit, they just threw in a bar 3/4. Cheeky boys. What was all that about? What's that slash chord there? It's just like, shut the fuck up. Why just stop it? Yeah, so you're right. You can't turn it off. It is real horrible. Or often, because I live in a city and it's quite busy, right? So occasionally I'll be trying to do something admin or something, and there's a car alarm going off, and I'll be like, is that an F or an F sharp? Can't tell. Grab the ukulele and then put or if it's like a cool rhythm, and then I'll be like, cool, I want to play the opposing rhythm to that, and I'm sat there and it's just like, okay, I'm just sat here playing to a car alarm, right? The benefits no one at all, but I'm fine. Okay.
That would be a funny album though, is just car alarms, and each name of like the song is like what kind of car it is. So it'd be like 2003 Toyota Camry, and then it's just whatever the alarm is, and then the accompaniment. I would
I mean, you've just literally named Jazz Album 2024, right? That is exactly it. Oh, I love the Honda Civic 2006 in B flat.
Yeah, exactly. Mozart's rolling in his grave because I'm going to name cars in.
Yeah. I mean, he could have horse and cart and what whinnies they do, I guess.
Yeah.
Do horses always whinny in the same pitch?
Maybe not.
Fuck's sake, shit to Google, mate. Always shit to Google, isn't there? Do horses whinny in the same pitch? Always.
I know. All horses do have the same birthday. They pick one day in January where they observe every horse's birthday. That is actually true.
What? So there's basically like one day of the year where all the horses like have a fucking banging rave. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, exactly.
Sick.
Yeah, so happy birthday to all the horses. When we first became friends, we had the conversation about having the tools for the job. And I know you were famously a one tool for the job kind of guy when it came to playing stuff on the ukulele. And now I see you have a tiny little army of instruments behind you. So I just want to know, what is the thought process behind both having just one tool for the job, and then how has that changed now that you've had You have such a lovely collection. Because I know for me, I need options. With everything I do in life, I need options. So especially with instruments, I like to have all those different
Yeah.
tones and those different sounds in what I do. And you can probably relate to this also. Some things I like to play on certain both sizes
Oh
and
yeah, yeah,
instruments. So,
totally.
so yeah, how did you go from being a one tool to a multi-tool kind of musician?
I've been called a multi-tool too many times in my life, Figgy. The pain, the pain.
I'm so sorry.
I thought I could at least come on here and have a safe space, mate. What the fuck? Gee, man. Um, there's multiple layers to this. First of all, Juliana and Primos are massively to blame. It's all their fault. It's
Right.
definitely their fault. But I'm extremely grateful. Thank you, love you. But okay, so I mean, it started off with, yeah, thank you, love you. Originally, it was sort of one tool for the job, and I'm very much I wouldn't call myself a minimalist, but I don't, too many things stress me out, bar that. And so, like, basically my rule is, in the house, and my wife, we both have the same kind of thing: if it's not used permanently, it's out. And that's always it. So I always thought was like, well, I can have a couple, but I'm not going to play more than that. So there's no point ever having that. And because I teach so much, basically, and how my setup is, I usually plug the uke in. So I always need like a plugged in uke. And then I was like, that's fine. And then I had a second uke. My second uke was actually the Diana, which I still go to my graves, like one of my most favorite ukuleles, maybe just because of Soundwave, but I love it to death. But basically, I wanted just a backup ukulele, because you know what I mean? There's times on, I think, the Fireball where like I was about to teach and then one of my strings snapped.
Right.
And I was like, shit. I was like, well, I haven't got time to restring. So that's why you have a backup ukulele. And that's how it started with that. But then when I started writing Fingerstyle Thursday, I started playing around with tunings, which I'd never done before. And I have no idea what possessed me either. But it was just, I think it was more of, I was trying to create sounds. And then it was like, the biggest one was, for example, playing in C minor. So C minor on the ukulele is quite difficult to play in because you have that normal 5-3-3 C minor, who I hate to death. I wish he'd die and burn and death. But if you just tune the E, and the E is the biggest culprit, because the difference between C major and C minor is an E or an E flat. So if you make that E and E flat, you're suddenly in C minor. And so I was like, cool. And that sort of like, because I used to be a theory lecturer and stuff like that. So when it comes to composing and notes and stuff like that, I know how to create chords, and I know what, when I'm playing the keys and stuff. I just never approached it on a stringed instrument like that. So then I started playing around with different tunings and started playing around and seeing it. And the more and more that happened, and I was switching between tunings and stuff like that, I would pick it up. I was like, well, okay, if I can keep this one constantly in this tuning, and then I've got the backup one, who's my normal one, and then I've got the normal one. And it's unfortunately progressed from there. So, I mean, really, it happened as, I know there's quite a large collection, but I've got four tenors altogether. And the Fireball was my main rock for a long time. Like, so grateful that Flight sent me that. They took a real, and I was completely unknown. And basically they said, you can have any ukulele that's 200 euros or less. And I was like, Fireball, please. So I was a real dick, and they were really great and took a gamble on me. And one day it'll pay off, you know what I mean? But until then, but the Fireball was my main axe, and then the Diana was the backup, and the one that I used the teaching. Mm-hmm. And then it's basically you're right, wood types, because it was then, and I had no idea about this shit until I really started getting into ukulele and started watching Alex like repeatedly on YouTube, to like a scary amount. Like, I know his address and everything. And it was then about tone woods and things like that. So right. I was like, okay, the mango has this kind of feel, so I want something that's completely opposite, that's really like bright and see-through. And that's when the Nighthawk came in, because the spruce and the mahogany and that came in. And then it was to baritone, because I wanted basically to play with that lower end. I'd never played baritone before. And I mean, I've really fallen in love with the baritone. There's 4 or 5 tracks on the album that are pure baritone.
Oh,
So I
wow.
absolutely adore it. And then, yeah, so that's how it's progressed from there, basically. So each one has a job.
Right.
That's it. But you're right. It can get to a point where it could be a scary amount, and maybe I have to start switching ones out. But for the moment, everybody has their own job, and that makes it in my brain okay.
It's still one tool for the job, but now we just have a few tools and they all got one specific job, right? That's
the exact thing. Each one has a very unique job that the other one can't do, and so
right.
that's yeah. So it kind of is that one tool for one job, but I just have many tools that could be used for the same job if they need to be.
Right.
So,
That's
but yes, I mean, how many are you on? How many are you on now?
Oh boy. I believe I'm on. We counting the Pathfinder? We count, right?
Oh, of course we are. Yeah. Pathfinder's
I
Uke.
I think I'm at 10.
Okay, cool.
10. So 10.
That's good.
A good amount of each size too as well. I think I have 4 tenors,
Yeah.
3 concerts, and then maybe 2 sopranos. Don't do the math because it's wrong, but I know I have 10. And then I've been playing around with some low Gs also, so I have a few low Gs in there.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
But yeah, same kind of thing. Like I said, I like to have options, but also
Yeah.
like, something that kind of like drones out, like you said, your
Totally.
C
Yeah.
string, like I kind of want more of a resonance.
Yeah.
I'll play that on like a tenor, whereas something that
Yeah.
is kind of like a little more fun and like plinky
Poppy.
in nature
Yeah.
would do it on the soprano. So I like to have all my different options and stuff like that. And then I have my percussive uke. I like to use my red flight gemstone uke because that's my percussion one. He's my beat 'em up boy. I love him very much. So yeah, I like to have different things for different styles, and I'm glad you do too, because it puts me at ease
exactly.
and makes it make sense.
No, it's fine. I have many students with double the amount of instruments that I do, so it's absolutely fine.
Cool.
The way that I would rationalize it in my brain is like I'm a music teacher. It's literally my job. So that's always the way. Whenever I start to panic, it's like, don't worry, you're a music teacher, mate. It's fine. It's totally fine. So I don't think it matters anyway. You know what I mean? But it is that weird thing that you do have to rationalize in your brain. Because like I said, I am very much a one tool for one thing. So having so many, but I will say nothing brings me more joy than when I go to play something. And even like on the album, and it's been like picking through the different ukuleles and just hearing how each one sounds and how I think each one represents like the idea of the weather better than another one or something. So it's incredible, very addictive.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like how you just mentioned how does the weather get conveyed through different kinds of woods. That's a really interesting thing. It's all making me more excited for the album. That is so cool. I can't wait to hear different weather interpretations on different ukes. That's cool.
I'm going to play one of the singles that I released from my album. The track is called Frost. I released it on YouTube about 10 days ago, but at the moment it's quite funny because without the instrumentation, it was one of the songs that I played and I was like, nah. I was like, I don't know if this is any good or not. And I didn't know where it sat and I didn't know how I felt about it. Like I said, I took it on tour and played it on tour and everything, but I was not sure whether it wouldn't actually make the album in the end and dropped it. But as soon as I sat down like with a piano and could put some instrumentation to it, I like fell back in love with it again. So that's the main reason I'm playing it, because it's sort of reignited a light for the track for me.
So cool. I love that. Sometimes you got to add the little extra seasonings before the broth tastes good, We'll hit you with another food related. Whatever. Here is Frost by Sammy Turton. Sammy, that was beautiful. Thank you very much for sharing.
You're far too kind. Thanks, mate.
Cool. Now, heading out of our intermission, we have the super cool segment called 5 Faves.
Cool. Now, I had obviously a little bit clue of this from watching Alex's, and I've been terrified of this section for a very long time because I know I said I'm one tool for the job, but actually picking one thing out of many things I like is a fate worse than death for me. So
we're going to start with, is your favorite film?
I have actually been thinking about this for a long time, and I think I have the closest thing to a right answer for you. So it's a film that I adore. I haven't watched it in years, but I adore it, and I spent a long time doing it. And for me, it was all the original soundtrack, all done on piano, and it was absolutely fantastic. And it's the Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Minds.
Oh, excellent!
And just, I'm not sure whether it hit me with the when it was that time of teen angst or whatever it was, but just seeing Jim Carrey in that kind of role, but it was absolutely adored it, loved everything about it, the quirkiness of it, but the soundtrack, like I said, it was just, for me, listening to the different shades of piano that were used and everything like that, and especially like in the flashback to the memories and stuff, and that idea, which I think is there, and it's like maybe people, I think everybody knows it, but sometimes it takes reminding, and that like a piece of music can really like glue itself to a memory or a thought or a place. And it was just always like that constant reminder of that theme, and just adore it. Love everything about the film.
Yeah, I love when Jim Carrey is a bit more nuanced in his roles, and of course we love him as a comedian, but a lot of comedy actors also do so well on the serious front. One of my favorite...
They really do, don't they?
Yeah, one of my favorite roles of his is The Truman Show. That's one of my favorite movies.
It's fantastic film.
Yeah, same kind of a little bit introspective in the same way that Eternal Sunshine is, and
yeah.
I love when comedic actors can kind of take that flip. Same thing with Will Ferrell in Stranger Than Fiction is a really cool. Another cool kind of serious role from a funny guy. So
I know, and it's almost really annoying, you know what I mean? Because they always perfect as that comedic role, and then they're like, "What? You're very good at this. It's not fair." So
right.
But I guess but you have to remember that's what acting is, right? That's the point of it, that you can switch between different things. But yeah,
right. Very not fair though. I definitely he's got to save some for the rest of us. Like it's
totally, exactly. Yeah. That's exactly it. Cool. This one's easy because I can't read.
Okay.
So if you ever think I'm reading, I'm basically, all my life I've just guessed the words as to what they look like, and that's it. I've been like, this can't be purple monkey dishwasher, and it's all been somehow I survived all these years, so it's been absolutely fine. So it's been good. Nice. Honestly, I haven't read in many years. As a kid, I used to like reading, and then I think a big problem of it was Super Mario Land 2, and that fucked everything from there.
That'll do it. Yeah.
Awful, terrible. And Pokemon Blue, that was also terrible as well. There's some reading in that, but no. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to be very much into the Goosebump books and used to love reading those. I read all the Chronicles of Narnia and really adored those. Same with like growing up, I read all the Harry Potter books and stuff like that. That came out pretty much when I was at that kind of age. But modern day Sammy just doesn't read, I'm afraid, mate. He's far too fucking lazy.
That is all right. I will do a slight modification on this question and ask you what your favorite video game is.
Yeah, I don't know whether that's worse.
Or what is it today? I'll phrase it. Because I know sometimes if you ask me who my favorite artist is, I'm like, I'll tell you who it is right now, but in 4 minutes, it'll be someone else. Yeah. But right now, I'll tell you.
Perfect. Then that's great. That's great. It's probably, I mentioned earlier, like I'm very into JRPGs, which for anybody who doesn't know, Japanese role-playing games, which is basically games where you just sort of live a life, and then it's more strategy based. So generally they're quite relaxed as games, almost like I guess almost as filmish, can't they? You know what I mean? It's not like Mario or something like that. So there's a JRPG series called Persona.
Oh, nice.
And it is, Persona 5 especially. That's the one that I've been playing through at the moment. I played through it years and years and years ago. But musically, again, talking about it, is basically just like off the tits lounge jazz. It has such a banging soundtrack. It's unbelievably good, and like the whole artwork and animation of the game is absolutely incredible. So I'd say that is possibly my favorite, just as it's almost a zone that you spend time in. And like I said, for me, it's again, spending that. I mean, it does feel like a cop out because I do have like the Triforce tattooed on my hands. So Zelda is in there somewhere, but for today at the moment, Persona 5 is definitely the GOAT tier video game for me.
Excellent. I get that same way too. I'm a big RPG guy. I like to make my little guy and then be submersed in like whatever world the game tells me I'm in. So I'm familiar with the game, but not with the soundtrack. So does Persona have an original soundtrack, or is it like music from, I guess, the real world and then they put it into the game? Like, is it real world jazz or original?
No. It's all written for the game. God help my soul, I can't remember the name of the composer, but you die, mate. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really, really good. And again, in another universe where another Sammy exists on YouTube, I made a crossover album of Persona versus Zelda, Ocarina of Time. Mm-hmm. And basically I did, and it was I enjoyed it because of the test for me of basically analyzing music. Right. So I remade Zelda songs from the Ocarina of Time, but in the style of Persona.
That is so
like
cool.
5 soundtrack, and vice versa. I redid Persona 5 songs, but in the style of like an N64 game limited MIDI soundtrack.
Wow.
So, and I switched the two just for the sheer fun of it.
That is too cool. I love that. Wow. That's crazy.
Thanks. I mean, it's cool or absolutely batshit insane. So I'm glad to be on that side.
Yeah, no, it's cool for sure. So I know you're very into that kind of, you mentioned earlier that Muse, you just posted a Radiohead cover today. You got all those other kind of like MTV2 influences, but who reigns supreme above them all?
I mean, I was about to say Muse and Radiohead, but I think you got there before me. So good. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's cool. At least I'm portraying that, so that's totally fine. No, I find the artists that have stuck with me the longest that I can still listen to now and still get a kick in the gut from listening to the album is both Muse and Radiohead. Adore. And if you think vocally, they're very similar. You know what I mean? I think even Tom York had a go at Matt Bellamy saying he ripped him off in the style of singing.
Oh, wow.
But so they're similar, but also nothing like each other at the same time. But always been obsessed with them. For a bass player, always, when like growing up, learned all these bass lines and everything. And then Radiohead came a little bit later, sort of college, 16, 17 years. But I was absolutely like blown out the water. First time I heard it was the MTV2 again, that Street Spirit was a big one that was always on. And I was like, this is the most miserable, best thing I've ever heard in my life. And so those, I'd say those two have stuck with me for the longest. But one thing that I always like to do and force myself to do is listen to new music, because obviously, you know, we all have, I mean, you're a lot younger, mate, but basically it's, you know, you get stuck into bands from like your teen years or your know, early 20s and stuff like that. And you will just absolutely envelop them. And then to everything else, you'd be like, fuck off, mate. I've got no more room. So I always try and make myself on purpose listen to new albums, new artists, because there's always great music. People like those memes where they're like, oh, no good music's being made. Rock is dead. Pop is dead. Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It's absolute bullshit. There's so much good music. Yeah. There's so much good music being made 24/7. So two artists that are constantly in my playlist at the moment, completely different ends of the spectrum. There's a Danish duo called Bremer and McCoy, and they're a double bass player and a pianist. They have 2 albums that I could just basically shut myself away in the bath on an island and just have those two albums on forever.
Mhm.
And like they're just instrumental, but I would say their albums massively influenced my want to put instrumentation to my ukulele. So I will always thank them massively. And weirdly, the bass player, Jonathan Bremer, often played with Tobias Elof. So it's a very small world. Copenhagen is a very small place, but yes. So there is a tie-in with another excellent ukulele player there, who I always quote as my most favorite and the biggest influence in my playing. So he is definitely that. But then I used to be in a progressive metal band. So I like very loud, technical, weird, shouty music. So there's an English band called Rolo Tomasi, who I absolutely adore. And again, it's actually, if you listen to them, very piano, very atmospheric, but loud. And so the switch between the two. So again, they are a big influence on how I write. Just because of, like I said, none of my music is loud or shouty or anything, but just on the sounds and the feelings that certain things convey. And a lot of it is the hidden dissonance. So a lot of times where I like playing a high G is because you can get away with a bit more dissonance than you can with the low G. You know what I mean? If you play like a low G over your A flat or something like that, it sounds horrible. But on a high G, you can get away with that shit way more.
Right.
And it just causes a little bit of uncomfortability, but it's like, I don't know. It feels like cool. It's fine. Yeah, exactly. It feels cool.
Like it's cool.
So that's it. Yeah. So that end, I sort of get and always I've got like the love of dissonance and weird. And so it's like, that's both ends of sort of my ears. And then Muse and Radiohead meet in the middle. So I guess that works out fine.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I love that idea, like you said, that dissonance. Have you ever listened to King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
No, but I really should.
Yeah, they're in a just name alone, but
oh my god,
they're an Australian band. I believe there's 9 of them in the band. They're huge, but
you're in trouble.
Yeah, they do a different thing with every album that they put out, and they also put out like 5 albums a year. Because their albums are like big jam sessions. And
okay.
They're famous for doing a different genre with each album, and it's really cool. So they put out 2 albums back to back, which they kind of dubbed the environmental conservation duo. So both albums have these themes of like how, you know, global warming and like all these like kind of messages of like we need to save the planet. But the first one is done in like folk-y, like folk pop with like a harmonica, and it's like very cool. The one right after it is an 80s thrash metal album. So, and it's done like you put it on and you think it's like a Judas Priest album you didn't hear before. Like it's really like to the T thrash, and they have so many albums and each one is a different genre. They have like a really folk rock one. They have a jazz one. Their newest one is kind of like, again, kind of like a jazz fusion type beat.
Yeah.
But their really early albums are very prog. They're like really prog rock, and they just kind of do like, if you can think of a genre, they've done it. And I think you'd really like them. They're really cool.
Mate, it's always the progs that are being crazy. Excellent. Yes, I will.
It sure is.
You'll have to text me then, because later on I'll be like, Jizzy Lizard with Izzard Gizzard Blizzard, and I'll be like, I'm getting no results, mate. What's going on? Jizzard with Lizard. No, I've got no idea. No, please help me. Yes, please tell me the name of that.
Oh, for sure. Our next one is going to be your favorite food.
Cool. It's pizza. It's pizza. That's essentially it. But the best pizza place in existence that I've ever been to is so the same town where we have Sound, the guitar shop where I discovered the ukulele. There's a pizza place called Pizza Face, and they're spread between Worthing and Brighton in the UK, and they're literally the best. They're like just classic Italian pizzas. But so I'm allergic to dairy and I'm vegetarian, so I end up as vegan eating. Basically, that's my options. And so they make vegan pizzas. And they make like obviously normal pizzas as well, but they have vegan options. So it's nice that, you know, you have both options as well. But all their vegan pizzas are named after famous singers.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
and ironically, my favorite pizza from then was Tom York. So
Wow.
that was the best pizza. But I mean, me and my wife adored them so much that when we got married, you know, when you get married, I think you meant to get catering and shit like that.
Mhm.
We ordered 50 pizzas. Basically, we ordered a pizza per person from our place, and we just were
Wow.
dishing out pizzas, and that was it. So there's lots of wedding photos of us just stuffing pizza in our face. It was.
That's awesome.
I think about it often, just for I miss pizza so much.
That's cool. I was going to ask you that when you said pizza, if there were any pizzas based on your dietary restrictions. So I'm very glad that you're able to still eat pizza, because I know the unfortunate truth of the paprika Pringles that they are no longer in your diet, which is so sad. And I'm very
Yeah,
sorry to bring it
no.
up. Didn't mean to bring it up.
It's fine. It's fine. You know
Um,
what? I've gotten over it with much therapy, and it's absolutely fine. But no, it's very annoying that brands will often just put like a milk or a powder into their recipe that used to
yeah,
be like accidentally vegan or something. It's like a new best recipe now with milk, and you're like, "Fuck you! You didn't need
right.
that before." So it's yeah. So they've ruined it, and I do not pledge allegiance to them anymore. It's
No.
disgusting.
Yeah, that's horrible. Do you have any other kind of chip flavor that is your favorite? Is paprika still the supreme if you find a milkless paprika, or is there another flavor that you like?
So yeah, I mean, one that's always like common in the UK, but in Europe it really isn't common, is salt and vinegar.
That is my favorite chip ever.
It's literally the best. Now
It is the best.
there's again in the UK you can get a brand called Monster Munch, and they make a flavor called pickled onion. And that
Oh,
is like salt and vinegar, but on like fucking crack. It is absolutely like destroys you. It's the best. It's absolutely fine. But I think it's so strong that, like I said, it does not exist. I've never found it in Europe. And same
right.
with salt and vinegar does occasionally happen, but it's not like a staple flavor at all. So
Hmm.
if we can ever get those, then yes, buy them in hordes. But otherwise, yeah, paprika's the winner.
Hmm. That I'm glad you mentioned salt and vinegar because that's my favorite. I grew up eating those
Yeah.
all the time, and sometimes people think they're gross, and I don't hang out with those people because salt and
No.
vinegar are like where it's at. I like the grosser the food is in principle, the better I like it. So like some people are like vinegar on a chip, and I'm like, yes, please, vinegar on a chip. If it stinks, it's for me. Is like my
Well, yeah, that's totally it. I mean, obviously, you know, again, going back to the English fish and chips, we coat
right.
everything in salt and vinegar. So
Right. I gotta get my
that's
hands on those onion chips though. That sounds good.
oh my pickled onion monster munch. Honest God, mate, it will fuck you up. It's the best thing you'll ever do in your life.
Yeah, I need my food to destroy me. That's how you know it's good.
Perfect. That's good
Yeah.
food.
And rounding out our five faves segment, we have what's your favorite hobby? What's the number one thing you do besides all this music stuff that you just makes your life good?
I mean, I spend a horrendous amount of time doing music, and often, you know, whether it's students or people, and they're like, "Oh, you must be, you know, you must be so talented. You must be so naturally talented." It's like all of that is bullshit. It's just been I constantly do it every single day, and you'll find anything that you do constantly every single day, you'll be really good at. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
it's the ultimate muscle memory of things. So that's absolutely fine. So let's do it. So my life feels very music enveloped, and I try and think about what I do outside of that. And I don't know. Video games is the thing that usually I use to like turn my brain off.
Right.
So brain on is, you know, teaching and composing or playing and stuff like that. And then if I want to turn my brain off, it is usually video games help me just disappear to that, and that's it. But that unfortunately is the very dull existence of my life. It is those two things pretty much. That's exactly it. So it's I enjoy one of the big reasons we moved to Copenhagen is because we enjoy the architecture so much, and my wife's very much into fashion and art, so often going to see like really cool exhibitions or just I know it sounds silly, but just like we have a little dog, so going on dog walks and stuff, and just looking at the local buildings and stuff, and the lighting it uses and stuff is big turn on in my life. Love that shit. So I wouldn't call it a hobby because it's weird. So I'll stick to the music versus video games thing. But yeah. Other than that, that's it. I'm pretty easygoing.
No, that's cool. I dig that. We'll call it your favorite other interest would be architecture.
Cool. Sick.
That's way cool. That's the one thing that I love about Europe is the fact that you have such rich history and it's still present in your architecture, like all around those countries and stuff. I mean, like New York, we have like buildings, but they just are kind of like buildings. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it is just cool. You know, you have all these like such historic monuments that are like literally just like peppered in with like your normal like walkable cities, which I wish we had walkable cities, but this is not that podcast. But yeah, I just think I've always thought that was so cool to see just from a distance how you guys have such cool architecture. So that's awesome.
We are very lucky.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty, my friend. This was a lovely podcast that we had today. I'm so happy.
Oh, mate, thank you. Thank you so much for spending your time with my face. I appreciate it.
Thank you for spending time with my face. It's very, very appreciated. I'm going to roll the carpet out for you now, my friend. Tell everybody what you got going on. Drop all the links. I'm going to put them on screen. And just let us know what you got going on right now.
Sick. Well, as you know, my name's Sammy, but you know me as 4STRINGBOY online. I have a very nice Patreon that you can join where is basically most of my lessons, all the covers I do, the tabs are there, workshops, everything basically is there. So for my teaching perspective as a ukulele player, that's where it is. That's all where it's going down. Otherwise, I am writing an album at the moment called Vejr. That should be out within the next 2 or 3 months. So I'm just plodding along at that. And that's it. Otherwise, you can find me at 4STRINGBOY on YouTube, even Twitter.
Yay! Excellent! Again, Sammy, it was such a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching. Be sure to stay tuned next month for another episode of Viggy Talks. Bye-bye.